On This Week in Murder, in July 1966, a horrific crime inside a Chicago townhouse changed the nation and started the modern era of mass murder. Decades later, a smuggled home video leaked to the press showing the killer, Richard Speck, doing drugs and boasting that he was having the time of his life. The public was absolutely outraged, but if you look past his cocky smirk and examine the background, the gangs running the prison, and his own physical alteration, a much more disturbing truth emerges. Was this a killer truly enjoying his freedom behind bars? Or were we actually witnessing the ultimate jailhouse humiliation? This is the story of Richard Speck on This Week in Murder. It was the night of July 13th, 1966. The 24-year-old drifting merchant sailor broke into a townhouse dormitory on Chicago's southeast side. Armed with a gun and a knife, he gathered the 9 student nurses inside, binding and gagging them. He claimed it started as a simple burglary, but the situation rapidly spiraled out of control. 2 more nurses walked through the front door late from a date, surprising him. Panic set in. He drew his knife, later stating on a recorded jailhouse tape that guns make too much noise. The knife was quiet. Realizing the women had seen his face, he resolved to eliminate every single witness. One by one, the nurses were led to their deaths, but Chief Prison Psychiatrist Dr. Marvin Zaporin later argued that a deeper psychological fuse was lit that night. The killer suffered from a severe Madonna-prostitute complex, dividing women into pure saints or inherent evils. When he reached Gloria Davy, something in him snapped. Dr. Zaporin noted that when the killer was later shown photos of the victims, he physically jumped at Gloria's picture, calling her a dead ringer for his hated ex-wife. She became the proxy for his deep-seated rage. She was the last one killed, the only one assaulted, and the sheet used to strangle her was tied so tightly that police could barely cut it free. But he made a fatal mathematical error. Crouched in the pitch black beneath a bunk bed, 23-year-old Corazon Amurao lay paralyzed with fear. She watched and listened as her friends were slaughtered. He glanced into the bedroom one last time, closed the door and walked away, unaware he had left behind his ultimate undoing. When Corazon crept out from the darkness hours later, she immediately went to the police. Her flawless memory allowed detectives to create a terrifyingly accurate composite sketch. The breakthrough came down to old-school police legwork. A detective tracking a tip about a wandering sailor checked a maritime hiring hall directly across from the townhouse. Digging through a trash can, he pulled out a discarded assignment slip. The name on the paper, Richard Speck. By the time his name hit the wire, he had fled into the concrete wilderness of Chicago's Madison Street Skid Row, a notorious strip dubbed the Boulevard of Forgotten Men. Using a fake name, he checked into the squalid Star Hotel, a place detectives described as a literal pit sea of human waste and misery. By Saturday, the dragnet was suffocating. His face was on every front page. Realizing he was entirely trapped, he attempted to flee from his own life, slashing his wrists in a desperate suicide attempt, though he later claimed this was false. He was rushed to Cook County Hospital as an unidentified John Doe, but destiny caught up with him in the emergency room. Dr. Leroy Smith, a young resident who had just been reading the evening paper about the manhunt, noticed a distinct jagged tattoo on the unconscious patient's arm, born to raise hell. Dr. Smith leaned in and asked him his name. The reply was a low murmur. Speck. The trial, which began 10 months later, was a media circus. The center of the prosecution's case was Corazon. In a dramatic courtroom moment, she stepped down from the witness stand, walked within inches of him, pointed directly at his head, and declared, "This is the man." Faced with an airtight case, the defense attempted to look into Richard's past to explain the monster. They argued that his mind had been warped by a lifetime of severe trauma and abuse. They brought forward his brutal childhood. His biological father died when he was 6, and his mother remarried a violent, alcoholic stepfather who spent 12 years savagely beating him and his mother. The defense argued that his severe physical abuse, combined with multiple untreated head concussions from his youth, left him with organic brain damage and zero impulse control. But the jury wasn't buying a tragic backstory for a man who stole 8 innocent lives. It took them just 45 minutes to find him guilty. he was sentenced to death, a sentence later commuted to life in prison. He maintained for years that he remembered nothing about the murders. That lie stood until 1996, 5 years after his death, when a smuggled home video recorded inside Stateville Prison back in 1988 was leaked to CBS Chicago. The tape shocked the nation. On it, he casually admits to the murders, smirking and saying, "It just wasn't their night." He is seen snorting mountains of cocaine, smoking marijuana, and flashing a huge roll of $100 bills. He directly boasts to the camera, "If they only knew how much fun I was having, they would turn me loose." To the public, it was an outrage, a mass murderer living like a king. But let's look closer at the prison dynamics, because our alternative theory paints a much more disturbing picture. He was a solitary loner, described by guards as weak-minded and easily influenced. More importantly, he was a mass murderer of young women, a crime that commands absolutely zero respect or protection in prison culture. So how did a weak, despised inmate get a video camera, cash, and pure cocaine? He didn't. The powerful Chicago street gangs who actually ran Stateville did. Look at him on the tape. He is wearing women's silk underwear and shows clear signs of chemical, hormonal, physical alterations. In a predatory, maximum security environment, he wasn't a celebrity hosting a party. He was prison property. The inmates holding the camera weren't his friends. They were his captors. By putting a notorious mass murderer on camera, displaying their drugs and cash, the gangs were showcasing their total dominance over the prison system. His brazen attitude bears all the hallmarks of a forced performance. Did he really want the public to see him feminized, degraded, and stripped of his dignity? Or was he playing the unbothered, remorseless monster, the only survival mechanism he had left? Richard's heart finally gave out in 1991, a day before his 50th birthday. While he may have died a broken piece of prison leverage, the legacy he left behind in 1966 changed the world forever. Before him, Americans left their front doors unlocked. Neighbors trusted neighbors. He shattered that innocence, effectively spawning the terrifying modern era of the American mass murderer. He thought he was born to raise hell, but in the end, the hell he created caught up to him behind concrete walls. Was the Stateville tape a glimpse at a remorseless monster living it up, or a chilling look at a jailhouse humiliation? Let me know in the comments below, and hit like and subscribe for updates on more cases on the next This Week in Murder.